All right, here we are with Alex Rawitz from DIMO, one of the co-founders there. Alex, what's going on, dog?
Always a ton going on over here, Nick, but it's great to see you. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, pumped to have you on. What's you guys are crushing. You're moving super fast. What's the latest? What's the kind of next thing for people to look for in DIMO?
Well, we hit the nitro on our Fast and Furious car here every couple of weeks just to keep things moving as quickly as it can. One of the big things that we've got going on here at the end of May and going into the summertime is we're starting to really expand the marketplace partners that we brought onto Demo. So the whole point of what we're doing is that we want a user to be able to collect their vehicle data and then share that vehicle data with these partners, whether that's for maintenance or insurance or any other big range of automotive services, and then even like games and cool stuff that you build on top. So we've brought on a small handful of partners sort of like in an alpha phase. And this summer, we're going to really start to expand that. We're going to be launching the first peer-to-peer car marketplace, really a service provider called Caramel. They're really cool company. Everyone should go check them out. And actually, really excitingly, we have a company that helps people offset their driving with carbon offsets. So we have the first couple of providers coming out here this week, and we're going to see a lot more marketplace options in the near future.
Dang, carbon offsets is always. Oh, people like that. The whole idea is like, hey, how do we save the planet? Do good, earn tokens, all that stuff. So
And we actually have a handful of developers and teams that are really interested in building those kinds of experiences on Demo, from verified offsets to carbon exchanges that you could plug your cars into, or in the case of what we've got coming here in the next week, just a really simple way for the average driver to say, all right, hey, I want to offset my carbon emissions. So I care about the environment. We do that through the Demo marketplace and earn a little extra Demo along the way.
dang, that's super cool to hear. Let's see. Are you guys going to use engine data to create carbon credits? That's kind of how you're thinking of it?
That'll be like a later iteration. The goal would be like to see how much you've driven and the fuel that you're using, because it'll vary depending on the kind of car, that sort of thing. But in the short run, it'll be a kind of a simple like, hey, you drive a hybrid, or what kind of car do you drive? You can just do a purchase. That's going to estimate. It's not going to have the science of how much have you actually driven yet, but that's certainly the long-term goal.
Okay, love it. Well, with my little electric car, hopefully that gets estimated, and I crush on earning stuff. What else is going on? What else is new that you guys are pumped on?
I think that we've seen not only a lot of growth in just like individual consumer adoption. We've seen
Yep.
a lot more fleets come to Demo. Actually, we have a couple of providers who are building fleet interfaces as well. So if you are even a small business who's looking for a more robust way than just kind of a slick mobile app,
Yep.
if you're looking for a more robust way to track your fleets, do geofences, have more functionality, we'll have an option there for people in the community in the next couple of weeks. Um, and we're starting to see a lot of distributors come into the fold who are interested in like, how do I support emo growth in my country, which of course is something that in many cases there's a bunch of people much better suited to doing than those of us that are sitting here in the demo offices in New York or Detroit or someplace like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Very cool. I mean, the potential for kind of cross collaboration is always super cool. And speaking of that, looks like you guys are working with IoTeX. Those guys are crushing on all fronts. Can you kind of walk us through what you're doing with them?
Yeah, we're working on a web stream integration with them, as far as creating a sort of like cohesive DePIN platform and a way for like all of these projects to interact. And one of the interesting things about physical infrastructure, same way that we've seen this like composability in DeFi, you can have that kind of composability in the physical infrastructure world as well. And so, working with them and others to try to imagine like, what is that world going to look like? We're super interested in facilitating that. And IoTeX has done an amazing job building a community around like their products and around the DePIN world as well. And so helping to bring awareness of Demo and us to like web stream is like really critical for kind of creating that cross pollination.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys, it's funny. Those guys don't get the credit for it, but they're doing DeepIn before anyone else was. They're just calling it something different. They're doing this machine fi thing. So it's super cool to see you guys are working with them.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. We've heard Andy talk about proof of car. What does that mean? Yeah, what does proof of car mean? And then how are you guys kind of planning to accomplish whatever that is?
It's actually really interesting. So more partners and folks that we speak to in the automotive industry, the more this proof of car problem actually becomes the like it's the linchpin to unlocking all of this other data that matters about the car. If you can't prove, the car itself, this particular VIN number, then like forget about how much other data you've collected. Like that's the linchpin, that's the key. And one of the things we've spoken about with auto marketplaces, insurance companies, maintenance companies, like anyone who's like, oh, I'm interested in vehicle data, their whole thing is like getting a verified VIN and odometer from the car itself is actually the first step to like anything else that comes down the line. And so what we're doing as far as actually verifying the VINs, the odometers, and all of the data that comes off of the vehicle through DIMO, like that's really a critical step in like creating this initial instantiation, the vehicle ID, this proof of car. We know, Nick, you have a particular vehicle, it's verified. And before we can even worry about what we're going to do with all of the data that your car is streaming, let's just focus on the fact that we know exactly what kind of car you have and where it is. And if you want to share that with a provider, that's within your control, and it's provable instantiation of your vehicle.
Got it. Now, I know Max is very pleased with his Maserati, but he's telling me, I think before the call, that DIMO right now thinks it's a Honda Accord, and Max can't have that at all. So can you walk me through it? I'm just giving Max a hard time. Can you walk me through how does it work? How does the proof of car thing work? I think you might be on mute. What I missed there? We'll get in a second.
It depends on how you're connecting your car. In the case of a software connection, and a lot of times we're getting the actual VIN and information verifying the vehicle from the servers of the OEM itself. And in the case of the hardware device, when we plug into the vehicle, we're asking the car itself via a VIN code that says, hey, will you tell us your VIN? And then the device has a secure element, a cryptographic wallet on it that can actually sign that payload and say, hey, we've talked to this car. It told us this is the VIN, and like this is cryptographically secured now. And so for us, that is a level of verification that, somebody can go onto a website and type in their VIN number. I don't really know if they have that VIN or have access to that car or anything, but it's a really great way to actually truly understand what's happening in the real world there.
Dang, does that kind of set you guys up to be way ahead of any other data collector in the vehicle industry to have that kind of direct connection and cryptographically signed?
Certainly from the perspective, well, there's a bunch of layers to that question because like the automotive space has had data collectors and there's a lot of automotive data companies out there that are, ahead of us in many ways. And a lot of times some of that information has to be public. I mean, you can go to, the National Highway and Transportation, Association's website and Google a VIN and type it in and get a whole bunch of information returned. That's public information. So there's a lot of public information out there, and even varies country to country. But the main thing that is really, really difficult to capture is what is happening with the car at any given moment in time. Somewhere in a DMV database, and maybe there's some of this stuff information is being pulled out. Who owns the car, the type of registration? But like the real world goings on of what's happening on that machine, on that device, is extraordinarily difficult to find. And in fact, other than the car makers themselves, nobody really has that data. So from the perspective of like creating this platform that's not just about the static information about the car, like what does the VIN tell you or what does the registration tell you, but like what's going on in the real world and how's the car performing, where it's being driven and how much, all of those sorts of things, then certainly like that is the end goal of the DIMO platform, is to build the best version of that and the most useful version of that can exist.
Okay, so it's the freshness of the information that is exceptionally valuable, is what you guys are doing. Sounds like
freshness of the information, and then over time, as we can bring in more participants to the network, the consensus around the information as well. Because ultimately, the auto industry has the problem of the fact that everyone has their own silo, and nobody's sharing information. So Ford might have a bunch of data about their cars, and Progressive might have a bunch of information about Ford vehicles, but there's no way to link those things together.
Got it. What you guys are doing is super, super cool. I know Max recently sold his car through DIMO. I don't think he's actually told me this. I probably should know the answer to this question. Is if you sell your car through an offer that you get on the DIMO app, when do you get rewarded for that?
So it's going to depend on which which those offers you end up using. I don't know which one Max did, whether which provider. Typically, though, like in the marketplace, we're targeting monthly payouts at this time. Like
Okay.
everyone wants real-time payouts and things, but just like the way that the world works, and most of the time these partners are paying Digital Infrastructure Inc. on some monthly cycle, in some cases even quarterly. It's going to depend partner by partner, but the goal ultimately, and where we hope to get a lot of these partners, is that we can make those rewards more real time as well, as opposed to just you do a transaction, book maintenance, whatever it is, and then get a reward a month later.
Okay, super cool. Super cool. Walk me through what having a DIMO unit on your car means for you, kind of service wise. Is it helpful right now? Will it be helpful in the future? What are you guys doing there?
In the future, definitely. I mean, certainly you have a better look at your data. One of the things that's coming a little bit later this summer is the ability to read your own error codes. That's obviously a very common feature of a lot of plug-in hardware. And like one interesting thing is that many services will actually charge you to read, do a diagnostic test on your car.
It's $150 or whatever. You're like, dude, you're just telling me what's wrong. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty frustrating. So, our goal there is to be able to skip that step and allow you as a user, read the code yourself, send it to the provider who, instead of quoting you for $150 for a, read, can actually say, oh, this is your error code. Here's what it'll take to service that. Bring it in today. Here's an available appointment, that sort of thing. So I think that as we get deeper into the data sharing aspect of this, where a user can actually send their data to a relevant provider, there's going to be more and more usefulness to the device itself from a service perspective. But all of that stuff, it takes a little time to get the API integrations. And we're starting to have those conversations right now with some of those service providers.
That's super cool to see. I know what we like to do on the DePIN State is mostly just kind of updates and not pure way into the future. But maybe we kind of finish this one up by saying like, hey, look ahead 2 to 5 years when you've got all the current wrinkles kind of ironed out. What are some of the things that you're really looking forward to seeing that DIMO will be able to do?
I think one of the things that I try to paint the picture of as best as I can, and I don't know if even I can fully conceive of how exciting this will be, but I think that there's going to be some really cool ways that like there's social elements to driving that haven't been really laid out before. I think that there's going to, obviously there already exists a ton of like car clubs, thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in America are already part of car clubs. And, people have this sort of like digital identity that is often so intertwined with their car. And I'm really excited to see like all those people who have Instagram accounts for their car and are constantly posting Facebook pictures of like their drives and things like that, whether it's a performance car or just taking road trips and things. I think helping people like build the digital like photo book of their like life with their vehicle is going to be a really cool app that lives on DIMO. That's a very specific use case, but I think that like helping people understand the portability of this data and like how meaningful and valuable it can be when you can take this car data and move it into any particular app is going to be a pretty magical experience once they've touched and felt that over the last next couple of years.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, Max is going to be flexing on his crypto friends with the NFT of his car. He's going to be excited about that.
Yeah.
Super cool. Alex, thanks a ton for coming on, catching us up on DIMO. Looking forward to having you back next time and getting even more updates on one of the most rad projects and certainly one of the most well-known projects in the DePIN world. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Nick. It was great to see you.